If you like to watch Survivor, and when the show ends, you really want to talk about it with like-minded friends. It might be hard to find some, but don't you shed a tear. Check out the Purple Rock podcast, and this is what you'll hear. John will make some dumb jokes, and he likes to yell and curse. And if they're not available, the backup hosts are so much worse. We'll spend the whole time being jerks and telling you you're wrong. So we found a nice person to sing you our theme song. It's the Purple Rock Survivor podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor podcast. I am your host, Andy. With me this week, once again, is Emma. Emma, welcome back.
Thank you. It's great to actually be back and not just have it dangled in front of me like a carrot. The one few vegetables I eat.
We'll probably have to vote you out after this because this is a season in which no women are allowed, but we'll get into that.
That's fair. Tough but fair. Fair.
Who knows? Maybe all you need is one. And
that's
frankly,
all
we
you
actually
have
voted out all the other women. So
yeah, I was like, it's token in my bio for a reason. You know, that's a Twitter bio. We'll see how much longer that exists.
Yeah, you'll have to update your Mastodon. Anyway, before we talk about that stuff, how about we talk about this episode of television? We're here to talk about episode 8 of Survivor 43. How'd you like it?
Okay, so based on like the internet, maybe this is a hot take, but I had fun. I enjoyed it. Having a good time. Like I didn't guess, you know, the boot, which doesn't always mean it's like a good episode, but they surprised me. They surprised me multiple times in the episode, and it didn't feature a whole segment of Gabler dedicating minutes to random people he met once or states. So I was on board.
Yeah, it's tough because I think the absence of those things absolutely made the viewing experience better this week. I think it will make the podcasting experience worse. But you know, there's only so many times you can go to the same well.
Yeah, but you'll be able to spend a lot less time editing this time around.
Well, I spent 0 time editing last time, so
Sure.
Untrue. Yeah, honestly, while I was watching it, I was having a good time. It started off with a bang, which we'll get into pretty quick ourselves, and maybe petered out a bit, but I enjoyed it. And then I don't know, maybe it's reading some of the reactions online, or maybe it was, and then okay, well, now what am I gonna say about the episode? I was like, so I enjoyed the episode while watching it. I don't know if it's left as much of an impact after the fact, and I think that's probably more results based. In the end, it was an episode getting rid of 2 people that really had no effect on the game. It was like, should we choose this one or that one?
Oh, I was like, Andy, they only voted out one person.
Right. Yes. I structured that one. Deciding which 2 ineffectual players, which one of them will we remove? But anyway, let's start with the what got me excited at the beginning of the episode. We start with the right after tribal council from last time. Get a little bit of why Cody and Jesse want to flip, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Jesse reveals that he has an idol, and I was like, literally out loud, what?
Yeah. Oh, I was like, what? I text, I mean, some listeners might know I usually am like texting my mom during the show. We've been watching it forever. I texted all caps, what? At the same time, she texted in normal case because she's old. What? Question mark, exclamation point.
On her screen, it was probably very big. So
yes, I'm sure. She is almost 72. But and I was watching with my husband who actually watches with me now. But yeah, we were like, holy shit, like, oh my god, okay, Jesse, like, I see you. Yeah, that fucking ruled. And
yes.
It did lead to a lot of questions, though. I mean, it was funny. I didn't even think of this until I was looking on Twitter afterwards, but like, yeah, like Dwight had exit press, but like, good on him. I mean, I'm sure production kind of like told him, hey, try, like, don't mention it, but he's like 22. Like, good. I guess all that practice, interviewing Colin Powell as a tween paid off. Because he did a great job not mentioning that. It made me, I haven't seen if there is Ponderosa. I know there was behind that's enough or whatever after the stuff they've done with like pre-jury people, but I haven't seen a real one. But I was like, briefly I got all excited when Jeanine was voted out, like, oh, we'll get to see her. Oh, right, Dwight's not actually on the jury. But I, like, oh, if he was, and if there was a Ponderosa, could you imagine that reaction? I died. But like, which leads to the question, because last week is what I thought. I was like, that episode I was like not feeling, and I was like, everything here was weird. Like, Dwight, buddy, why?
Yeah,
Why?
I have no answer for
Why?
that. It wasn't, I mean, it was technically his to give. That's why it can transfer.
But like,
within what's happening,
move, right? Like,
yeah, not really fair to the original idol holder, and also just like, yeah, why? So your worry here is that they will have anticipated that the idol has transferred from Jeanine to you, so then you have to transfer it one more time. That's too many steps, man. At that point, if they anticipate that the idol is with Dwight, you
good
shake their hand. Good job. They're probably trying to vote out I guess that means they're trying to vote out you, Dwight. But yeah,
right. In which case, keep the idol so you can play it.
Yeah, like, I mean, I guess not if they steal it, but yeah, it's just, I mean, it kind of goes back to the discussion we were having last week, is that like I was really opposed to the entire idea of their vote split. It's just like you're doing too much in a scenario where you don't have that much wiggle room. And yeah, going one more step and doing this with a guy who, you know, fair play to Dwight, not unknowing that he is not with you.
But even if you,
but even if he is, there's no reason.
There's no reason.
It's that little bit of subterfuge has already happened. The only way there would be a reason is if Dwight has a good reason to believe that the information has leaked out there, right?
In which case, just give it back to Jeanine.
Yes, that!
What? And like, also,
Jesse wasn't even asking. That was a freebie. He was just like, what? Okay.
Like,
now I have two idols, because we find out what happened with Cody's idol as well.
Yeah. Which I think they might have addressed last week, but regardless. Also, like, it ended up being a moot point, all the discussion last week, although it's kind of good to know that, like, oh, they can't, even what's your name's being read, like, you can't pass around an idol, which, like, it's fine. I have no problem with that being a rule, although it was kind of funny that Jeff is like, you know, because I say last time to play your idol. It's like, well, we're not saying he gives it to Jeanine to play it.
Just giving it back, yeah.
Give it back. But now I'm kind of like, Dwight, when you were catching votes, should you maybe have been like, but Jeanine, by the way, I have some terrible news. I mean, you think this is bad news? As a bad news, but also maybe good news? Like, your idol will not be deactivated. It's just I gave it to Jesse. Don't ask why. I don't have an answer.
For reasons. Yeah, I mean, maybe a different kind of player who was able to stay in the moment a bit more would have revealed that on the way out. I'm glad that it didn't. I like that Jesse has this idol no one knows about.
And they don't even know, like, they saw part of 42, but they don't even know, they being the cast as a whole, but like, Jesse doing this doesn't even know that was basically Marianne's winning move, is having a secret idol. And so having that with someone who's like already pretty well respected, like,
yeah, no,
it could be the normie season to lose.
I think he's in decent shape. Obviously, this game can always turn around.
Sure. I mean, it looks like next week there's going to be a thing that's very hard to prepare and to protect against. Prepare easy, but very difficult to protect against.
Yeah. I've long been out of the prediction game, both because I was bad at it and also
you were very bad
at it. Well, and the reason why I was bad at it is I was trying to reconcile predictions with fun. And so I would go against what the story was telling me, because I was being belligerent to the people who were all like, oh, it's so obviously this. And I'm like, shut up, you're ruining the fun. So now I just stay out. I don't want to ruin the fun. So yeah, so I'm not saying that Jesse could win, but I mean, this doesn't hurt. So last week, some of the discussion was whether it was the right move for Jesse and Cody. And I think this extra information, a lot of people have been like, oh, well, yeah, I suppose if you can get a fully secret idol that way, that's a good reason. The thing about it, though, is I think he had already made up his mind to flip before that thing showed up in his pocket.
Yeah, although what it really does, I think, is solidifies why he was willing to let Cody have the decision of it being Dwight and
Yeah.
not Noel.
Yeah, because actually I didn't talk about this last week because we were busy doing stupid shit. But I actually thought it was Noelle would have been the better target, right? Because then she will not be using her advantage.
Because you hate women, Andy?
Probably. I mean,
yeah.
if you let even one of them survive, and this caster doesn't seem to want to, then clearly they're going to be an Erica. One woman wins once every 10 years, and then the panic alarm goes up. We can't let that happen again. Frankly, a lot of what we saw this episode also reinforced my belief that, yeah, I think Jesse had good reasons to flip. And that's because these people are stupid. The other side that he would have been with are dumb. And we're still a lot of people in the game needing to find allies to progress. And like last week, I'm just like, what my basic argument was, if you have to team up with Gabler to make something work, then finding another plan is a-okay with me. But this week, I'm skipping ahead because it works here. We get Sammy talking about why he flipped. I believe that it was probably a last minute, hey Sammy, here's where the vote's going, and then he decides
right, because even Cody didn't seem to know. So
yeah. I think somebody filled him in last minute, and he just didn't want to be caught on the wrong side of the vote. Fine. So then we see him wanting to reflip this week. And this is when we get the brilliance of the alliance that Jesse quite rightly decided not to be a part of anymore, when they're like, we've got 5 of us, and there's obviously now that Sammy is flipping to be part of this 5, so that would be 6. We only need one more. If we could just get one more person, we're cooking with fire. And it's like, you don't need another person, you need another vote. If only there was a way for these specific people to manufacture a way in which their 5 will be able to outvote the other 6. I have to assume that Noelle's advantage, whoever actually advantages it is now, I believe Owen ended up having it. I have to assume that somebody brought it up sometime, but it never entered the episode because I was waiting for it. I might have missed details for the rest of this episode because I'm like, won't somebody mention that you don't need to talk to a single other person. If you got your 5, you're set. You steal Ryan's vote, you win 6-5. I don't know. I'm guessing this frustrated you too.
Yeah, I mean but it was like, it wasn't even really that. I mean, obviously that was a big factor, but then just as the strategizing went on, I think I was a little more focused on feeling that this was way too early for Sammy to be doing this. Because it's like, okay, yes, I get it. He feels he's in the bottom of the 7. That's totally valid and probably
I'm guessing it's probably accurate.
Yeah, and like especially if we assume the 4 Coco are together, right?
Which maybe not. Okay, so then maybe he's 6, right?
Right.
3 of the Cocos are definitely together.
If you can at least understand why he would assume that is the case, right? If we're looking on the outside. So it's like, well, you can probably then team up with Jesse and Cody for not being on that as well. That's 3. That means just wait for a couple of these people to be voted out. And I would say, I mean, he was pushing for Ryan. I think the move for Sammy, I mean, there were different, I think everybody had kind of different people they should have been targeting that they weren't doing. But I think for Sammy, he should have been pushing to get rid of Noelle, because that cuts off the other option, Jesse and Dwight would. He's not Dwight. Dwight got voted out. Cody. Jesse and Cody would have. And then it keeps the other Baka people around that he could put. So if he works with them, they get rid of one, whether it's Gabler or Owen or Jeanine, doesn't matter, right? And then he decides to flip. There are more Baka than there are Bessie. And they get rid of the Coco people. And then once they finish getting rid of Coco, he's in the majority. So I feel like that was probably a better decision instead of deciding, oh, let's flip this right now when we, in theory, should be able to, but are not addressing the actual thing. So let's just, I don't know, Noelle only told Owen, let's just decide that's the case. Like, they just never talked about it. So
Yeah.
if it doesn't exist in their world, like,
I can accept that Sammy
flip so
doesn't know. We have no evidence that he does, right? That he knows about that advantage. I have no problem accepting that Gabler doesn't know, just for reasons.
We know Owen knows.
We know Owen knows, we know Noelle knows,
Noelle
and
knows,
never
yeah.
do we see them mention this.
It's
Hell,
wild.
we never see Jesse and Cody being like, should we be worried that they should steal our vote? This is the time. There will never be a better time, at least not in your current configuration, for an advantage that will most likely not matter. And yet, it was never brought up in the episode that as telecast. Again, maybe it was, and it fell apart for other reasons, but I would suggest the evidence suggests that it wasn't, because they were really, really focused on getting a lot of people to flip. And in doing so, that kind of hurts your sharing information. And, knowledge, I hear, can be powerful. You were going to say something.
The devil, you say. Yeah, it's just that the only other thing I could think of is why they didn't use it is because for some reason, they all decided they all need to vote together today. They are just, I think Baca was just like, we are tired of being left out of the vote. If I will be on the right side of the vote, even if it makes my game worse, god damn it. Because if I'm sitting at the end, I'm going to be able to be like, well, at the beginning, I was on the wrong side of the vote, but I did vote out Jeanine.
Yeah, that cha-ching, Owen's gold now.
Because, it's impossible to win if you're an underdog and you didn't vote out the jury. It just can't be done.
Oh, though they won't respect you for that. And also think of the fantasy points,
Yeah.
Owen really wasn't collecting any VTEPs, and it had to be done. Yeah, no. Because even if you I thought, okay, you're trying to flip somebody, maybe just to have a little bit of security. Again, you don't need to flip them. You have been given a gift by the game in which you can flip their vote for them. So you don't need them to cast it. But okay. Again, let's say Sammy doesn't know this. From his perspective, he does seem to be the one that tries to move the target to Ryan. Doing that for him means that he can still play both sides, right? If he gets the Coco, Jesse, Cody faction to vote out Ryan, then he hasn't declared anything just yet, right? And that's something maybe later he could say, hey, when you guys voted out Ryan, that was me. And then he can still play both sides. But for them, you don't need to get Cassidy on your side, no matter how effective it might end up being. You just need to still fucking vote. I can't remember if the steal a vote or extra vote has ever paid off in this game. Maybe it has once. I know for a long time it didn't, and we would make fun of it for failing spectacularly. Generally.
Oh no, Marianne used it to get out Omer.
Yeah.
That was it, and at
least that. And there might have been another time in
I think technically Shan used it right. I don't know, they split the vote to vote out Nasir, but it's that was more like insurance. Evie should have used it. This was another time like that, which it does seem I wonder if Noelle specifically, I guess we'll get into it, but because the new era that was going to be everything is so different from the game as you've known it before, now can fall into very predictable formats. Maybe Noelle knew, okay, well, this is going to be really useful when we're split into 2 groups of 5.
If you get there, actually, was it Evie or was it Xander that had it, and he should have used it to save Evie? I think that's what it is.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, I guess. Did Xander have?
I remember yelling about it a lot because that was also extremely frustrating. You could get this.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, that because I don't think Evie ever had anything, but Xander had at least had an extra vote.
Yeah, he had the extra vote, but he didn't have a vote for quite a while. Is the scenario?
I guess maybe the issue there is because it would have been a tie, and that's why he didn't do it. Whereas a steal a vote, that's not the case.
Yeah, I think he just didn't do it and then people were like, "Oh, he doesn't need to save her or them."
Right, which they didn't know at the time. So
yeah, that is the disconnect for me in the show she was referred to. Anyway, and I just did it again. My bad. Yeah, no, and I was incredibly frustrated then, and it did not pay off for Xander. Guess what? Blowing your chances to do things is not actually always a very successful scenario. For every person you can say they played a great under the radar game and won, we can probably name 3 people that were sitting next to people who won who didn't, right? And I don't think Noelle will be that person because I don't think she's going to go that far, but this was your chance. And again, it's a known advantage too, to some degree. I think, probably Jesse and Cody might know about it. And there's somebody who has a thing that can steal stuff. Use it now. Do it now. Frankly, do it now, even if you've lost a couple of your people, your tribe. Because maybe the act of them seeing you, because you have to do it before the vote. I'm stealing this vote. That's why I would, if you're doing this, just go after Ryan, because nobody's going to play an idol to save him.
Then it would actually be worth it to have the tribal council take 10 minutes.
Yeah. But no,
just like analogies.
It never happens, and thus, more than anything, that's why I'm completely now sold. I was, I had made the case last week, but I was even undetermined whether it was the right thing for Jesse to flip or not. Now, of course, getting the extra information of the idol, that's a big thing, but seeing how stupid the people he would have had to work with are, yeah. Obviously at some point it'd be nice to be playing against people who are dumber, but I don't think they're there yet. It's certainly not helping these people progress far in the game by being stupid. So I'm in favor there. Actually, getting back to the reveal for Jesse's idol, you said it was awesome. I agree that it was awesome. Some people are not happy with the reveal like that. They feel it's unfair of the show to keep them in the dark like that. The wanking motion that you're making with your hand, I think, says more than you need to say, even for an audio format. I agree completely, man.
That was a special
we watch every week, guys. You can fucking wait a week and find out more of the story. That's how a lot of other TV shows work.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and make a baseless assumption that these are people who caught up later and were used to binging the show, and in general are used to binging television, and some of us are old and grew up watching not only week by week, but then having like, oh, there's a rerun this week for reasons, oh, it's the holidays, oh, there's the World Series, various things. And sometimes you wait, sometimes that's fun, like
it was so fun to open this episode and be like, what? There's something we didn't know?
Yeah, like it would be different if that was like a secret scene.
Yes.
That would be really annoying.
Yeah, or it was left out completely, like an idol nullifier or something. Right.
Like it was in the show. Like it just made things a little more fun. It made us think. Like it was so much, like, I don't know, I personally don't think it would have added a ton to last week I think it would have subtracted. Yeah, that Jesse had the idol. Like, because then you don't even have the speculation of like then it's more about like, oh, does Jeanine know about Jesse's or not? And like, who cares? Like this was more fun. Viewpoints on television are technically subjective, but those people are simply wrong.
Yeah. So one person who expressed that opinion was Tyson. I saw a quick clip from his podcast. I only watch the clips on the dying social media platform that I'm on. I don't listen to the podcast because I don't listen to other Survivor podcasts. But yeah, I do think like some people, like what I've gotten from people like him is like, it's like, well, how do we analyze the show if we don't know stuff? And here I'm here to tell you, we don't know stuff. We don't know most of it. Take it from somebody with a lot of experience. Just feel better about being wrong. Sometimes it's okay. So yeah, last week you thought that Jesse made a wrong move because the show withheld this information from you. You lived with that for 7 days, and now you can have a new opinion. It's fine, man. None of us know anything. We don't know these people, even if you've read their pregame stuff. We don't actually know what was happening. Certain, moments in the episodes that we're getting were from like 2 weeks prior. It's fine. We talk, we have fun, and then this week happens, and yeah, that was one of the more fun ways to open a Survivor episode.
Yeah, and like, look, speaking as someone who does enjoy analyzing Survivor and stuff, that's not what it's for. Like, it's just a show, my dudes. Like, we're here to have fun and enjoy it. I do like thinking about the strategy and talking about it, but sometimes I mean, things like this happen all the time, and it's not because it'll be like, oh, we didn't know that those people had a close relationship and it was never shown,
Yeah.
or something, or it just like results oriented thinking, like it's like, oh, something seemed like a bad idea but it worked, so I guess it was good actually. One thing about people analyzing Survivor is one thing I always respect about Rob, and I know you're not a big RHAP listener anymore, but is that he has often will say with his predictions and stuff like that, he's like, it's like, I love being wrong. Like that means it's interesting. It's more exciting. It's like a podcaster's dream should be wrong. It should be being wrong because then you have more to talk about. It's like, yeah, you thought it was this, then you get to spend the whole next episode talking about the actual thing instead, and it's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're aligned there. Yeah, they withheld that information. They're always withholding information. I'm a big dummy and I don't know anything, but yeah, I love analyzing it too. Literally what I'm doing here. No other show, in fact, am I really interested in talking about it or thinking about it? But they did tell us this wasn't revealed via exit interviews. And we got that episode, which that helped preserve the mystery of where the vote would go at all, and now we got this extra information. Because it's the show does want to end on the reveal of who's going home. Because if they tack this on at the end, that would be awkward. Just like it was always awkward when we watch somebody walk off and pretend like they really had a choice about going to Exile Island or not. Or I guess it wasn't Edge of Extinction. Yeah. That was terrible ways to end the episode. It needs to end with that vote. Because and build towards is it going to be this person or this person? And I feel like this episode did a really good job of casting doubt, telling the different stories, even with like kind of the editing certainly made it feel like Ryan was way too comfortable and would pay the price for that. In the end though, did you care if it was Jeanine or Ryan?
I mean,
maybe you did.
What?
Maybe you did.
Yeah. I think Jeanine was a weird target for them to have picked anyway. I have some questions on that one that we can get into. I was expecting it to be Ryan just based on the edit, like you were saying. I mean, the edit certainly let me know that Owen wasn't going home and that he was going to win immediately.
I didn't have a whole lot of suspense of who was going to win that challenge.
But whatever. I didn't mind hearing his story. I think that's one you don't hear about a lot, but it's something that a lot of people deal with. But words are difficult and left my brain. But yeah, so Jeanine, I mean, there were 4 women, dude.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying the season is like bad because of it. I don't think like all of the cast are like raging misogynists or anything. I mean, it's what Cassidy said basically is I don't think it's intentional, but it's frustrating. And on this case particularly, it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. One thing that really gave me a pause was all of the like, she's really smart, she's super smart, and I'm not saying Jeanine isn't smart. I don't know Jeanine.
I don't know anything.
We know very little about her. I saw a comment on our site saying that Ellie and Jeanine carried in terms of being entertaining cast members, to which I say with all due respect to Jeanine, her?
Yeah. Ellie, yes. I'll allow that.
Ellie, sure. And Jeanine seems
was
nice.
Also there.
I really, truly
was somebody whom Ellie talked to?
I truly hope that her chin doesn't scar. I feel so bad. That poor girl was like down to like 85 pounds, it looked like. So I don't blame her for not being entertaining. But I don't think she was adding a lot. And I did not see evidence in terms of the game that she was necessarily super intelligent. I don't know her background, so maybe it was something about where she went to school or something that they had talked about that we didn't see. But otherwise, a little bit of a like, gosh, why do you think she's smart, you guys? So if that's the like that sucks.
Especially when that was not their original target.
Right.
Owen was the dangerous one.
Who's also clearly a snake and sneaky and super
Yes.
duper smart. And it's like, guys,
Yeah.
he was raised by white people. That doesn't matter. Obviously,
yeah,
I'm
they
kidding.
might not have pressured in the same way that your stereotypes have thought about it. Yeah, no, those leapt off the page for me too, because I'm like, yeah, as they're talking about her as dangerous, I'm like, her.
Yeah, it felt a little shady to me.
Because for me, she felt like she hasn't had any purchase in this game.
She's had really bad luck, and I mean, she thinks her idol just went out of the game, and she lost her closest ally right before. Why the fuck are you worried about her?
Yeah. And it could be process of elimination, right? Owen is not available. Gabler, they do not believe is dangerous because he's Gabler. And then Noelle. I would think Noelle's more dangerous, personally.
Noelle would be a good option. I think once there was push, I mean, there's other questions, I guess, but I think from James's perspective, Jeanine made sense to vote out. But I think once Cassidy and Carla were exhibiting hesitation and pause about voting out another woman, but James didn't want to vote out Ryan yet, they should have switched to Gabler. I think that was a good compromise. That would have been a good compromise, and it would have assuaged, his closest allies and made them feel listened to, while also still getting rid of someone not from their tribe.
Yeah. And, assuming, of course, Cody and Jesse go for it.
Sure. But
I think it should have been Gabler all along. When it couldn't be Owen, it should be Gabler. They don't think he's a threat. I do. Not in a we'll win the game scenario, but in a
we'll fuck up your plans.
Up forever. Yeah.
And they said they wanted to vote out someone who was a physical threat. Okay, Ryan hasn't won a challenge, Gabler has, and a very physical challenge. Props, to him and Cody, honestly. Poor Cody keeps coming in second, gets all the threat without the actual winning. But they beat that record on a challenge where they had to do a whole nother challenge before that. So he's clearly no slouch.
I would vote him out so I wouldn't have to listen to him much more.
Right?
Like that.
Also that.
Yeah, no, I think this could be a season where underestimate Gabler at your own peril, and that could be what's going on. Yeah, eyebrow raised completely at Jeanine. Now, as to whether I cared or not, similar to what you were getting at, I wanted it to be Ryan because could we just cool it a bit with voting out all the women? But Jeanine specifically, I have zero feelings towards Jeanine. She is a nothing presence on this season for me. And to that degree, she shares the title with several. We'll get into that. Did I care if Ryan would go? Nah, I've gotten what we need to get out of Ryan.
I was going to say, that was the other thing, is I feel like we've kind of gotten what we're going to get out of Ryan.
Yeah, other than shirtless scenes, he doesn't have anything more to offer, and we've had our fill of that too, to the degree that such a thing is possible. Yeah, I was like, okay, so
there are gonna be people listening who are excuse me, shout out Brad,
Ryan, Phil, there's something there.
Oh no.
But yeah, but it's this whole, but as a build of we're gonna lose somebody, I'm either of them could exit the show and nothing is really going to change. So in balance, it'd be cool if it was a dude every once in a while, even if they could just show a willingness to do it. And
I guess technically they did last week. It's just there's still quite the imbalance.
Yeah, touche. They had, yes, and that's what they wanted to do, right? Owen was the first target. But yeah, and so that's when we get to Cassidy and her decisions. I think what she was saying when speaking to James and Carla was, as the kids say, a whole ass mood. I got it. I think it would have been a very effective argument for Carla.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that it works in front of James, and maybe I understand why they're the closest allies. That's who's with you. James had showed an interest and willingness before to team up with these particular women and no issues voting out men. But I also think you say something like that and that might just solidify for James, yeah, I'm not doing this, because heaven forbid there be 4 women in the game, right? Like,
then they could clearly overpower the 6 men. Yeah. Like, because she was just like, can we just this time, and also because God knows what Jeanine could possibly do with no allies or advantages if you leave her in for one more day.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're saying it without saying it, that there seem to be a whole lot of Asian stereotypes going around, particularly from James, because he's the one who is picking targets. I'll say not just the Asian stereotypes, but also I would not doubt that people were seeing an Erica within her, which is also, related to what broad cultural group that people would put her in, even though, again, Asia is a continent.
Right. Like, I think I recall in pregame press Jeanine saying that her dad came from China. I could be wrong on that. Regardless, I know she's just based on the name, very different from the Philippines, which is culturally very different from most other Asian countries because they were colonized by Spain.
But yeah, in that sense, like somebody who you wouldn't think had much of a chance at that point in the game and came around. Like fair play to recognize the danger posed by players like Erica, but it is something like they let him win it once, and now that's what everybody's going to be on the lookout. Is that the new Parvati? The fear,
right? The new Parvati 2.0 will be like, she's a quiet woman of some pan-Asian descent, so we can't let her get to the end.
Because again, I'm fishing for reasons why they thought, and again, they're there, I'm not. But nothing about Jeanine. Like the episode opens with everybody being like, with Jeanine in tears, everybody being like, "Oh man, tough break," and then laughing like, "Hey, you'll never believe where her idol went." Which, of course, even like Jesse being like, "What? He had her idol."
That was Beautiful. Such a good scene because like that was fun anyway, and then the reveal. I know we already talked about it, but
it was delightful. The highlight of the episode.
Also, if I could really quick, since we're back on that really quick, I thought of sort of an analogy of people who are upset about them withholding that. Like that's like being upset about a twist ending in a movie because they didn't tell you that happened before.
I think there are people like that too. It's like, how dare you? They just, and that's the way your brain is wired. That's the way it is. I don't want to hammer on too much, other than to say, if that is the way your brain is wired, you need to recognize that that's a thing of you and not the responsibility of storytellers.
This whodunit didn't show us the murder in the beginning.
Yeah, again, there are fair arguments that like if it doesn't play fair, like there's no way we could have anticipated, then that's sloppy storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Again, and which would be the case here. There is no way we could have anticipated that Dwight handed the idol off one more time. But again,
because why?
If you are binging this season, you wait like 5 minutes tops for that reveal, right? We saw it. It's fine. It's fun. It was great. Back to Cassidy. So I didn't like her saying that in front of James, even though I totally felt it. Like I think she's right, but being right isn't always enough. Why the hell would she vote for Ryan?
I can only assume that it's just pure Courtney Yates style spite. And as someone whose Twitter header is just pictures of Courtney Yates, I respect it. Plus, I mean, one thing I will say for, James targeting Owen, it was also like, well, he did vote for me twice. It's like, you know what? That's fair. And so for Cassidy,
that's also true of Noelle and Jeanine, right?
I don't know, because he might be
thinking right, because only splits. 2 people voted for James and the whole, 4 people caught votes.
Yeah.
Weird split. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So it was Ellie and Owen the first time. So I think Owen is the only one who's voted for him twice. And that's one of the 2 ways he's like, woo, the other way is long hair. And then they God, I say, and the way my brain is wired is that sometimes I forget what I'm talking about mid-sentence.
What? Yeah, I can't decide which is worse for Cassidy.
The spite. Yeah, is that also, Cassidy knows because Ryan was not subtle, that he was definitely targeting her back on Coco. So I can understand why she maybe doesn't trust him.
Sure.
I don't know that was a good idea, but I honestly find it just a little refreshing, assuming that it was a spite thing, that A, she doesn't give a fuck about your fantasy league. B, that is just gonna be. I was very annoyed by the obsession of needing this to be a unanimous vote. And so the fact that she's like, yeah, I don't care if I'm on the right side of the vote. I know I have an alliance and I want to make a point. I don't know that it's good gameplay, but I was just so irritated by Owen and Gabler like needed to be on the right side, and Ryan for telling everybody the Jeanine plan.
Yeah. That is another reason why you should just vote him out. There you go. Yeah. If you're talking about what's dangerous, again, I understand at the end where James is like, wait, why am I voting out somebody who doesn't want to vote for me? Like, that's the one thing James knows more than anything. Ryan is not going to vote for James.
Totally fair.
Accurate. And I think, taking that last second and like, why are we doing this? Well, it's a pause. I get it. But a reason to get rid of Ryan is for stupid shit like that. That, he is going to talk in front of people you are not aligned with what the plan is in a game that has tools that allow people to change the outcome of votes. And in fact, everyone in this game has one of those tools in their pocket, whether they remember it or not. But yet, had to be unanimous. Just like we've had a lot of unanimous or attempts at unanimous votes with some weird offshoot possible vote split things happening. No idols have been played, no advantages have been played, even when they are served up on a silver platter. No shot in the dark haven't even really been mentioned much.
It seems like from most exit interviews has been people being like, yeah, I forgot.
And then we get, like Jeanine, the big threat, instead of trying to do something else. I'm often in support of like not going big game hunting too quickly. So I'm not necessarily about it, but it has been a lot of conservative gameplay this season. Any thoughts of why that might be?
I don't know if it's maybe just that the 26-day game moves so quickly that if they're voting like every day or every other day, it's almost like giving yourself a day off in a way, like adding some breather room or something. I think also it's just that sense of like with advantages maybe of like feeling the pressure of like I need to use this at the like most optimal time, but it's like, well, if you get voted out, then you
missed it.
But or if you hand your idol to someone else, like maybe Jeanine should have played the idol for Ellie. Maybe that would have been better. Although I totally was fine with it at the time. But yeah, I don't know. It is weird. I guess just everyone thinks like you just gotta get like to the end and make like the one flash. Maybe that's the thing, because they've only seen Erica's win. Just like, if I get there against a 19-year-old and someone who starts yelling at people, or Xander was 20, but like then it'll. And as we know, Sammy, that's very different being 19 or in your early 20s. Like if I can just do nothing but get ahead with the right people, it'll be fine. And that's why Gabler is still in the game.
Yeah, I'm really starting to worry and wonder if the shortened season is impacting it to the degree, like you said. Maybe it's just easier, They don't have a lot of time. There's a lot of pressure, so it's just like, let's just take it easy. Let's play it safe. We'll do this again in 2 days. We see James saying we could vote. It's kind of funny because they're saying it about, I think, Ryan. We could vote him out at any time. That is also true about Jeanine. That both people are talking about.
It's you could arguably more true about Jeanine.
Anytime. That's a bad argument. That is not a differentiator here. Your other arguments were better. The vote out anytime, I think, is actually, yes, far more true for Jeanine than it is somebody who is the most physical player of the season. Obviously, he's not won a challenge, but he was instrumental in the victories of a lot of team challenges. So if you had to bet money blind on any particular challenge, who's going to win, Ryan or Jeanine? Everybody's, but I guess some people like to bet weirdly and throw their money.
You get a bigger payout. And yeah, and like, to be clear, not because Jeanine is a woman, but because she has no muscle mass. I hope she had a large feast when she arrived at Ponderosa.
Because if it is the 26 days, like, they would promise that's not going away. Anything can change, man. That show will change.
They're still, I think, having to do quarantine stuff, so they're not saying that it's going to go away. But I also think the 3-tribe format is why we're seeing a lot of the women going home early because they get more hyper focused on physical strength, and we all know women aren't strong. If they look like me and Jeanine, at least. But sometimes men look like Romeo and Zach.
To be fair, they did vote out Gio this time, so
but not before voting out Lindsay because she was worried they were going to vote her out.
I was against that. I just, because if it's that, it's just like there's just not enough time, so it's just like, let's just keep it simple. Let's stick to the plan. Obviously, there is a lot of time left in this season, so it's a trend.
Right, it's only fine. It's 10. There's 10 people left.
But it's also like, if we build upon other recent seasons, there is this disease, it seems, where people hold on to this stuff. They have their precious and they don't want to use it. And that's conservative. That's there's an opportunity now, but there'll be a bigger opportunity later, which is actually such a weird inverse of how they all got those advantages, right? Almost all of them got the advantage by being like, haha, I'm going to play this game of chance. I came here to play, baby. I didn't come here to not risk things. I'll throw away my vote to get something. And then they have that something and it's like, well, now's not the time. And again, so Jeanine never brings up the extra vote, which I guess she doesn't know about. Okay, fine. Then why not play your shot in the dark? And if you listen to exit interviews, she gives kind of all this. It probably boils down to she fucking forgot. Maybe that's it. Maybe everybody's so hungry that they can't think straight. But there's no reason for her to not play the shot in the dark if they're not doing the vote steal plan, because her vote is not going to matter. She knows it could be her, right? She knows that's possible. Yes, there's this counter plan for Ryan. Great. If that happens, your vote doesn't matter because apparently everybody's doing it. So you don't need your vote. Try to be immune. And in her exit, she's like, well, then that might show that I'm not trustful of my alliance. What alliance? You don't have any people.
Yeah. Plus, tell the people you are in theory with that you didn't trust, I don't know, the people who voted against y'all last. I was going to say last week, yesterday.
The only risk is that you don't get to do it later. Otherwise, nobody is going to be pissed off that you took this opportunity to protect yourself. And if that's the way you think, I'm glad you were voted out, for one. And for two, that's just a symbol of how over conservative people, I can't do this thing that has been given me the opportunity to take a wild stab at surviving this game because it might hurt people's feelings. Man, fuck off with that. So when I read her exit interviews even more, I'm like, man, I'm glad they've chose you because I do not want to hear that sort of thing. But it is kind of more an overall trend. And no, Xander, we were arguing about it earlier. Yeah, Xander doesn't play his extra vote. We don't get the extra vote here. Here's a wild ass prediction I will give. Nobody's going to play that steal vote this season effectively. They blew their chance. If they weren't doing it now, then when? When is Noelle or Owen, whoever has it in their possession, going to have an opportunity where one vote? Actually, you know what? Next week could be.
It's the literal preview.
Yep. Okay, never mind. So I'm out of the prediction game.
Yeah, and that's why I said also earlier on this very podcast that maybe because now they just know the format of the show that and at 10 we'll split into 2, and so that she could use it then, because the new era that's going to keep everyone on their toes is structured exactly the same every season.
Yeah,
we hit that important milestone of the rice negotiation, which is
I know, this is the new thing. This isn't a thing. No, is this replacing the family visit now, what you're trying to do?
Yeah, and again, I get why they don't do a family visit right now because
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, like you can't ask people to quarantine for like 2 weeks to maybe see their relative for a half an hour. But yeah, this is not interesting. Especially now he doesn't even let them negotiate.
Oh, it's this, or it gets worse.
Yeah, it's fine. And I mean, I will say Rob credit to Rob C. He pointed out on know-it-alls, but like it's never been 5.
Yeah,
It
I thought it
wasn't.
was 4, wasn't it?
They negotiated down to 4, I believe, the last 2 seasons, and of course, White Lotus star Angelina Cardona-Keely famously was the only person who had to sit out in what spawned this all. And it's like, guys, the negotiation wasn't fun because it was Rice negotiation. It was fun because it was Angelina.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be? Is there gonna be like at the every 5th episode, everyone gets to ask for a jacket? Like that's not fun. It's Angelina.
Yeah, and it's not telling us anything. Oh, well, this is revelatory that these people feel confident and secure. Yeah, some of them, sure. It's also because maybe you're like, I could lose this right away and then starve, like that's an acceptable answer too.
Like, I mean, she was probably one of the safest people anyway, but I loved Carla being like, yeah, my hand is still jacked up. I can't grip a pole for a half an hour.
The challenge, not in the breakdown here, but honestly, I found it a little disappointing, comment wise, for a thing where they were really working the pole to keep the balls up. That there just was not enough commentary.
I think it needed to be 2. I think that would have really helped.
Yeah,
I kept trying to think. I was like, is there something about your ball being on the pole? And I was like, that's not really an.
Yeah, I know. I was having trouble making some of the connections too, but like there has to be something there, and I wasn't there when the Dream Teamers were running it. Like I only had a few minutes. Jeff, like this was on the storyboard. Come on, man.
Yeah, Jeff used to always do this stuff.
I mean, it's clearly why it's put together. We don't ask for much. We just ask that these challenges are as juvenile as possible. So yeah, in these various discussions where we're like, I don't really care if it's one or the other. It would be nice if it was dude. And I can respect Cassidy for doing it, but it probably wasn't a very good plan. And also, why is nobody really taking a chance to do anything? And why is every vote leads to the question, are you impressed with anyone so far this season? I'll put it on the table right now. I am not. I have people I'm rooting for. I am not impressed by anybody.
I mean, Jesse got Dwight to give him the idol for literally no reason.
He did, though. That was 100% Dwight move. And Jesse's just like, all right then.
I am impressed that Sammy will never let you forget how old he is.
Oh, you're never gonna believe it.
He's doing these moves while he's 19. So I was really waiting for him to get Will Walled this episode. I thought that's where it was going.
Yeah. There's definitely an energy that like when he's discussing like why you got to do this and the great players make big moves or whatever. It's like
I don't think it would have been a bad idea either, honestly.
No, that's the thing. Like there's people criticizing like, oh yeah, he's just being young and impetuous, but I'm kind of like, honestly, it's not bad. I think he was, again, I genuinely believe he was pulled in last minute, which is fine. Okay.
I just think it was too early. I think he was doing too much too soon. I think,
but again, if he knew and he could, like, the opportunity was there, man. It was there. That group of people that he was talking to had the opportunity to do what they wanted to do, and also, as I said, getting them to flip to Ryan then keeps all his options open, other than Ryan as a potential option. But how much value does Ryan pose to anybody, right? Probably the most value.
Dozens of tiny fish.
That's true. Yeah. So anyone else have impressed you at all?
I'm very impressed that Ryan is able to walk when the doctor said he couldn't, and that he became such a physical specimen. That's rad. I could see why no one there cares, because he probably hasn't told them that he has cerebral palsy for the same reason people tend to not tell them their inspirational life stories. Noelle doesn't really have that option. Nope. Would be pretty clear. But yeah, I think that's cool. I think that is nice. Yeah, I was trying to think of something else impressive. I mean, everyone has talked about the secret scene of Carla making this incredible move by convincing Gabler that Lindsay went home with the idol. I'm like, yeah, that's a great plan until Gabler talks to literally anyone on Coco.
Yeah. At the very least, you need to coordinate that plan so that
right,
she'd be like, no, I gave mine to Lindsay, and then she'd be like, yeah, I was helping Lindsay get beads. Then maybe.
Yeah, if that has also happened, sure. We have not seen evidence of that. So I assume not.
I think Carla is still doing well. I think she is on a path that could lead her to success.
Carla's doing well. I think James is doing fairly well. I don't understand what happened in the last couple of weeks to make it sound like to make his voice sound like he ate Pierce's troll in the darkest timeline. Because that is not just rasp, there's like some really robotic stuff happening.
No, it sounds like his Zoom connection is breaking up, and I think it's only when he's at tribal council, so I'm guessing it's because of the lapel mic and the specific vibrational frequency of his gravelly voice.
Yeah, because that cracks me up. It reminds me of when I was a freshman in college, I got a cold, as one would in a dorm, and did not get better for a really long time because I was barely sleeping because I was in college in a dorm. And so every morning and like late at night, my voice would get really froggy because it was just like tired. Like it was like the first 6 weeks of school. So I think people just thought that's what I was like.
But at the end of the day, your 5th pack has just really fried it.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyway,
Ryan lost a bit, or sorry, no, James lost a bit of shine for me this week because I think the very, very smooth play to get Owen to step down.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. That was so bad. And also, why? Like, as we've said many times this season, like, yeah, I know that's who you want to vote for, but like, bro, just you're protected. That doesn't even by what? Like
I don't have the idol.
Who would fall for that? If Owen did fall for that, Owen is not actually a threat.
Yeah.
It is one or the other.
You know what? By you choosing to do this, you are protected.
Yeah.
I thought I was making assumptions that are clearly
maybe that was the plan.
That might require some self-reflection on my part, but clearly you are not dangerous because how could you believe that? You and I are not affiliated in any way, as evidenced by the fact that you voted for me twice.
And like,
what? And that just seemed like an example of like this. Oh, James, I have this idea. Because again, it's in the moment, right? They didn't go in there anticipating that they needed a 5th person to do rights.
Right, it was supposed to be 4. He even said, "Hey, Jeff, can it be 4?" And Jeff's like, "No, it has always been 5. Don't watch the old season."
That's right. There are 3 lights or something. That was a Star Trek reference, and I only seen the episode once. I probably shouldn't have gone there, but people will get it. Yeah, no. So just that moment from James, I was like, all right, I'm out. I mean, again, I flip quickly, so he could get me back.
But and you're still a Lakers fan.
Oh, it's not so much this season. What I do now is
I'm not in
the episodes or the games. And then I see if they won or not, and then I'll watch it. So I have not been watching because they're.
Are you a little bit proud of me for knowing that the Lakers aren't good this season, though?
Well, I mean, you live in the same city as them. I suspect that news might leak out a bit. I guess you're not listening to the radio that much.
To like LA sports radio? No, I can't say that I am.
Go on, they could talk about the new 1-year contract that's being signed by your favorite team. Anyway. Yeah, so
that lost in the NLDS.
I am not impressed so far this season, which kind of affects my overall thoughts of the season, which it's been fine, but less fine than the 2 previous seasons. And I was saying that at although I feel like in both of those seasons, I don't know that I was saying that at this point. I think I was, they had already started to turn it around a bit more. And I would say like 41 in particular had like a lot of interesting action early, which probably hurt it in some ways.
Yeah. Which is why I had like hope for a while with this season, because the slow pre-merge can be good ultimately.
It was like, hey, the better players are hanging around. And again, there is still time.
Technically still true.
but there are fewer people that I feel could be that person, right? Like, again,
Yeah.
I want Carla to win. If Carla wins this season, it'll be very great season, or very good anyway.
Yeah.
The seasons where the person I most wanted to win were not always the best seasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think the earliest I ever was like, that's who I want to win, and they actually won was Ghost Island. So, hello.
Yeah, can't think of it off the top of my head. Probably Tom.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, we've
You were all
discussed.
Ian was your rooting interest in that season.
I was but 15. No, I was probably younger than 15.
Like, there were certain winners I was happy about
matter.
prior to Tom.
Right.
Like, I was happy when Sandra won Pearl Islands, but she was absolutely not the person I was cheering for. Like,
from the beginning. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, and I'm a poverty stan, but going into Micronesia, that's not what I was expecting.
You probably really disliked her coming off of Cookout.
Yeah, who was I going for? Sarid, probably.
Oh, certainly Sarid.
Yeah. And actually a little bit Jason Siska, because he was the brother of the bassist of an emo band I liked.
Yeah. So yeah, look, and again, yeah, the seasons where somebody will but if Carla wins, I'll probably speak highly of the season. Jesse, I'm still invested in, and he did well tonight. Almost, again, I think by accident, but still. But otherwise,
if he really doesn't tell anybody, that is better than a lot of people have done. Yeah. That's the thing. Carla and Jesse not telling. Wait, what's the handshake? Carla and Jesse not telling people about their idols.
Yeah, and maybe that's why I still feel positively about both of them, right? But I also feel like I don't know if either of them are going to be the type of player that will shake the game in exciting ways. I think Carla specifically, her path to success will be a game that does not get shaken up. And again, there's been enough there that I can enjoy and see some of the low-key things, but I could also like to see more. Like, there hasn't been as much Carla of late. I'm not too alarmed because there's just been a lot of business to get through. I don't know that there was a lot of Erica at this point in the season or whatever.
I was going to say, was there ever? I think it took until halfway through the finale that I was like, oh, I think Erica will win.
Yeah, and even Marianne was obviously a big character from Jump Street, right? But I think at this phase in the game, she was stepping back while other things were happening. And yeah, that might be the move, the way Survivor's going. So I'm not out on the season, but I am I'm not going to say.
Well, no, this is actually, I wanted to bring this up because I feel like I have been grossly misrepresented.
The floor is yours.
Saying a season is meh is fine if you feel that way. My issue was that in 42 you kept calling it meh, and then would go on the podcast and be like, people keep acting like I'm down on the season, and I don't know why. And I was like, because you're calling it meh.
And I think maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe up here, because of our French influence, it means a little something different. Yeah. For me, meh isn't necessarily negative. It is the absolute absence of feeling almost. It's meh.
But it's a and we got this on Twitter. It's a negative tinged neutrality. There's, think of how it's used in The Simpsons. They're it's I don't care versus okay.
There's a fair, it probably speaks to a bit more ambivalence than maybe I was feeling then.
Yes. And
in which case I will say a completely accurate way up I'm feeling this season. Sure, I'm enjoying the week-to-week experience. I like watching Survivor. It hasn't turned me off.
Right.
But it hasn't turned. I'm not going to finish that way. The parallelism. It hasn't got me excited either.
That still isn't good.
Now time for your polls and shafts and balls jokes.
I think, I believe it was our commenter, Diego, who we are pulling for.
Yeah, I actually have it on my notes here. Shout out to Diego. What she said. We're pulling for you. I like to avoid the whole, fight metaphors in the scenario because it implies that the people who lost were like bad fighters. But we're behind you for what I'm sure will not be a fun or exciting time.
But to bring up an excellent point he made,
Yes.
regardless of what he's going through, is comparing it to how we've always kind of said Panama is like replacement level Survivor, which I honestly kind of think as more seasons. I think
I
the
think that's not true
30s.
anymore. I think it
Yeah,
is
I
upper
think
half.
the 30s did a lot to bolster Panama. I mean, there are some great seasons in the 30s, but most of them are bad. To meh. Like I'm higher on Ghost Island than most people, but it's still but you know, I think the ending is great and Chris Noble episode is but neither here nor there. HHH exists and that's so bad. But yeah, I think Panama, I mean, you have Suri and you have Shane. How bad is it gonna be? But the point of it being like the new replacement level, especially for the new era, which I mean, we're only 3 seasons in, but I think makes a lot of sense. There's nothing so far, knock on wood, offensive about it. You know, the first half of Iowa I thought was a decent season, and then it became, do I still watch this show? Thank God they did Winners at War. Can you imagine? Which, like, I know people have various feelings, but I mean, it got us all like wanting to watch the show again, which was nice. But yeah, all of this to say, replacement level feels good. It adds people who are like, yeah, I like Survivor. It's like, you know, not every season of The Simpsons is season 4, but it doesn't mean they're all like season 25. You know, sometimes you've just got a nice season 10 where it's not the golden age, but there's still good stuff. And I've lost the plot here.
Sorry.
So I'm going to stop talking.
As you're talking, kind of I was thinking this, I'm trying to figure out, like, for podcasting, which is better. Because you're mentioning Ghost Island and HHH. I dislike those seasons. But I always had something to talk about. And I found this season is, I mean, we've already gone over an hour. What a shock.
Yeah, you were like, oh, we can keep this short. I'm like, but can we?
I mean, by our standards, because I think we're nearly done.
It's true.
It has been a bit of a struggle, just like trying to find new ways, because it's not interesting for people, I assume, to have come on and like listen to the show, this one, and be like, hey, yeah, everything's fine and I don't really care. Like, so, but at the same time, I do think it's better. I think it's better that I'm still enjoying it, because yes, I had lots to talk about in Ghost Island. Although, you know, not lots. It was kind of the same thing every week. About, hey, look at that, Lauren's not flipping again and nothing's going to change. Why are you guys saying that she's a good player? Clearly she's not. And then, yeah, why are people saying that Chrissy,
there's too much airtime on Wendell and Dom?
Yeah, or why people, and then
why could that possibly be?
HHH, why are people saying Chrissy has a good social game when everything we're seeing of her is like clearly she puts people off? So I had things to talk about, and it's fun to have opinions, but it's more fun when the show doesn't upset me. So I think it has been better from that perspective, because it has.
Yeah, I guess, you know,
me.
not to get like deep, but it's like, what's more important to you, enjoying the show or having this podcast?
Yeah, I mean, probably enjoying the show. It's just I do have this podcast, and it's like I do try to, you know, everybody can decide whether the results are very or successful or not. I try to turn around an interesting, you know, entertaining product. Scare quotes on the product, because, you know, we could decide whether it has enough value for that. Yeah, I guess just because at least in those seasons we were mixing it up. People were commenting, people had opinions, and I do feel like kind of the general opinion so far is malaise. I do think there's time. And again, if this is we get to see the March of Carla after some of these people are cleared out, then I think that'll be really exciting. I hope it's better than just like the last episode, because then it'll take like 3 years for people to start calling the season great. Because I know we love the Natalie Anderson one. It was exciting. Much of that action was restricted to the final episode. We still had to get through a lot of episodes where it felt like John Mish might be winning the season.
What a dark time that was.
A pleasurable experience. I'm sorry I can't forget that because I enjoyed the result. It was still a season where a lot of the debates were about how much food the people were eating or not. Anyway,
If only they had a challenge where they could get rice.
They probably wouldn't have done it. I mean, they had the challenge where they did like, hey, we don't even need to do the challenge. We'll just pick a winner. And Jeff's like, fuck it. Who's winning? What a great season. We rank it far too low. Anything else?
No.
I'm gonna take that as a no.
Yeah,
So
I said no.
I was talking before you finished saying it. Because that's what I do.
Yeah, that's your style. That's fine.
You can discuss this with us, maybe more than just feelings of malaise, on our website at purplerockpodcast.com, which who knows might be the sole place to discuss these things with us for long. For now, you could also tweet at us. The show's at Purple Rock Pod, although we often aren't even there. I'm at Purple Rock Andy. You're at Purple Rock Emma. We have no plans for going to these weirdo Linux-based Twitter's accounts.
No.
When that place dies, so will our social media presence as it is. We are not going on Facebook. We are not going back to Tumblr. I mean, if we're being real, we barely do anything now. But we do this podcast, which you can subscribe. You can watch it on YouTube. Anything else?
No, I guess you should hit some theme music.
Will do.